Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a drama film called The Walk from 2015. Enjoy your viewing. A French tightrope walker stands on the torch of the Statue of Liberty. He tells us about his illegal dream of stretching a rope between the twin towers of the World Trade Center and walking on it. The story moves to 1973, to Paris. Philippe works as a street mime, performing in the squares. He draws a circle around himself, because no evil force can cross it. Those who violate his personal space, he rides a motorcycle over their feet. In addition, Philippe practices tightrope walking, pulling ropes in different places, and demonstrating miracles of balance to the audience. Grateful passers-by throw coins and sometimes sweets into his hat. One day he receives a candy along with the money, which he eats with gusto, leading to a severe toothache. Sitting in the dentist's waiting room, Philippe is flipping through a magazine and comes across an article about the construction of the Twin Towers, the future tallest buildings in the world. Forgetting about the pain, he gets the idea to stretch a rope between them and walk across it. This walk is to become his greatest performance. Philippe is immersed in the memories of his happy childhood when he first saw a tightrope walker in the circus. Mesmerized by the spectacle, he began to train at home, gradually reducing the number of support ropes from 5 to 1. Unfortunately, his father did not take this hobby well. As he grew older, Philippe again sneaks into the empty circus to try to walk the tightrope under the dome. There he is found by Papa Rudy, the main circus director. He tries to chase the impudent young man away, but instead of running away, he starts an impromptu show, demonstrating his skills. Papa Rudy decides to take Philippe under his care and teach him the circus arts. However, the boy wants more than to perform under the dome, which eventually leads to a quarrel. After that, his own father, disappointed with his son's choice, throws him out of the house. The young man travels to Paris to conquer the capital. His first street performance is successful. However, while working in the square, he crosses paths with a singer who performs in the same place. She wants to complain to him, but the guy forces her to continue the conversation without words, communicating with gestures like a mime. Having accepted the rules of the game, they quarrel about the distribution of space on the square, but when it starts to rain, Philippe offers a compromise. He will perform only on the days when she does not sing. He also invites her to a cafe to tell her about his dream of walking a tightrope between the World Trade Center buildings, which will be 100 meters higher than the Eiffel Tower. They start a romantic relationship. The girl helps her find a place to train, and Philippe begins to teach her how to walk the tightrope. Later, Philippe meets a photographer, Jean-Louis, who tells him about his dream and offers to capture it on film. One day, when the rope he is practicing on breaks, Philippe goes to Papa Rudy to learn how to properly secure the ropes. For a moderate fee, Papa Rudy takes the young man on tour to teach him the art of knots and fastenings. During one of the training sessions, Philippe slips and almost falls, having managed to grab the rope with his hands. Papa Rudy explains that neglecting the last steps is a common mistake made by tightrope walkers who believe they have already overcome the most difficult part. It can be fatal, especially at high altitudes. Soon after, Philippe is invited to perform for the first time at a festival in a small village. He has to walk a tightrope over a lake, and not only the audience but also his friends are watching. The festive atmosphere prevents the boy from concentrating, and he falls into the water in the middle of the journey. To get over the bitter aftertaste of his debut fiasco, Philippe decides to take on another challenge, walking a tightrope between the towers of Notre Dame de Paris. In the morning, when the first tourists gathered in front of the historic building, Philippe makes his passage to enthusiastic applause. Immediately afterwards, he is arrested. Philippe is unhappy, but the international press is delighted with him, while the French condemn him. In one of the newspapers, he comes across an article about the Twin Towers. They are almost completed and will soon be put into operation. Seeing this as a sign from above, he decides to act. They fly to New York. Arriving at the site, the couple is impressed by the scale of the buildings, although Philippe is plagued by doubts about the feasibility of his plan. Seizing the moment, he climbs the stairs to the roof to get a better view. Philippe walks along a protruding beam to appreciate the scale and to curb his natural fear of heights. He has to convince Jean-Louis to help him realize his plans, despite all the difficulties. He also has to turn to the advice of the experienced Papa Rudy to figure out how to stabilize the taut rope with additional cables so that it does not get swayed by the wind. The mentor insists that the young man fix the safety spar, but Philippe refuses, which almost leads to a quarrel. After a reconciliatory conversation, the old man gives him a family heirloom and an envelope with money as a sign of respect for his skills, the same bills the young man used to pay for the disclosure of his professional secrets. Philippe and his team practice balancing on a shaky rope. Jean-Louis brings his friend Jeff, who is afraid of heights but joins the team anyway. They also learn to shoot a bow to throw the first rope between the towers. Later, Philippe sets the date for the performance on August 6th. 3 months remain until the construction is completed. Philippe flies to New York with a bunch of equipment. He honestly admits at customs that he wants to stretch the rope between skyscrapers and walk on it, but the customs officer thinks it's a joke. Philippe carefully studies the venue, not even hesitating to pose as a journalist at a press conference. However, during his next walk around the construction site, he steps on a nail and puts his foot through it. There are 3 weeks left before the scheduled date, but he is more concerned about the wound than the question of how to get access to the roof of the North Tower. During his next visit, Philippe is recognized by Barry, who saw him perform at Notre Dame. Barry works on the 82nd floor, where he has access to the stairs, so the tightrope walker recruits him to the team. Soon, Jean-Louis and Jeff arrive in New York. While buying walkie-talkies for negotiations, they meet JP, a French electronics dealer who is also recruited to the team. JP helps them find 2 more people, a photographer named Albert and David. On August 5th, Philippe gathers everyone involved to discuss the plan once again. Divided into 2 groups, they enter the towers to climb to the roof at night and pull the cable. The builders will arrive at 7 a.m., so Philippe has to start his skywalk at 6 a.m. At night, Philippe has a nervous breakdown. He goes to hammer a box with tools and rope, which is to be delivered to the tower in the afternoon. The team tries to calm him down. Eventually, in the middle of the night, the guy thanks everyone for helping him realize his crazy dream. In the morning, they set out to do the job. Albert, Jean-Louis, and Barry enter the North Tower, hiding in an office until the building closes. The van with the rest of the team goes to the underground garage of the South Tower, where the conspirators, pretending to be workers, load a crate with a cable. However, the freight elevators are busy, and Philippe and his team have to wait until the end of the shift to convince the manager to take the cargo upstairs. They make it to the 110th floor, but a new problem arises. How to get rid of the elevator operator without interfering with the preparations. JP offers to buy him a beer while the others unload the equipment. When the trolley's wheel breaks, the men have to manually pull the cable to the roof. Hearing the footsteps of the guards, David starts to panic. Philippe lets him go, and he and Jeff, having dropped their helmets, hide under a tarpaulin on the balcony that crosses the vertical shaft. After waiting for darkness, the boys come out, but their legs are numb from the immobility. Behind schedule, they are pulling the cable up the stairs when Philippe spots a sleeping guard. However, the training must continue. The gymnast signals his accomplice, who is waiting on another building. Jean-Louis shoots an arrow, but Philippe cannot find it. He even takes off his clothes to feel it with his bare skin, and eventually spots the arrow falling a little further down. He goes down to grab it, when Jeff reports that the guard is awake and has gone on his rounds. Taking advantage of his absence, they move the rest of the equipment to the roof. Then they pull a thicker rope from a nearby building, tied to a line that they use to transmit a wired walkie-talkie for communication. The preparations are interrupted by the unexpected appearance of a security guard, forcing Philippe and Jeff to take cover in the shadows. When he leaves, the gymnast sets up a homemade alarm on the stairs made of garbage. After securing the stabilization ropes, Philippe prepares to pull the main rope to the opposite roof. Suddenly, the cable breaks and falls down. The 2 men are unable to hold it, but Philippe manages to tighten the bolt holding the loop, and the steel rope hangs from the beam. There are a few hours left before dawn. Nervously, the team begins to pull up the rope. In the pre-dawn gray haze, they watch the progress from the ground. The cable has been thrown over, but it is not yet taut. In addition, Albert and Jean-Louis, deciding that they are too late with their preparations and the stunt will not succeed, want to retreat from the goal. However, the team continues to pull on the stabilization ropes, providing the main cable with the necessary rigidity. Suddenly, the elevator wheel comes into motion, lifting someone to the roof. But instead of a security guard, it's an office worker who just wants to admire the view. Seeing Philippe armed with a piece of pipe, the man decides to turn around and leave as if nothing had happened. Philippe is preparing for a performance, changing into his stage costume. He accidentally drops his shirt down, frightening the people watching with binoculars. However, resigned to the incomplete image, he decides to start his biggest performance yet. In the first rays of the sun, he steps with 1 foot on a rope stretched 416 meters high. Jeff hands him the balance beam, and the whole world around him disappears into the fog. Only he and the thin 42-meter path under his feet remain. Philippe steps on the rope with his other foot and takes the first step over the abyss. Below, JP and Barry, noticing his movements through binoculars, shout with joy and stop passers-by to see this incredible sight. To the applause of the crowd and the clicks of Jean-Louis' cameras, Philippe completes his walk between the twin towers. But this is not enough for him. He gets back on the cable and repeats the dangerous journey in the opposite direction, from the North Tower to the South Tower. In the middle of the way, he stops, gets down on one knee and greets his partners in this performance, keeping his balance on the cable. After that, he continues to move, but 2 policemen are already waiting on the roof. Approaching them, Philippe throws the balance beam around his neck, turns around and walks in the other direction. In the middle, he stops again to perform a new trick. kneeling down, leaning on a pole, and looking down. At this time, Jean-Louis and Albert, hearing the police running, hide to let them pass, and then hastily flee down the stairs. Meanwhile, Philippe, as if dancing, reaches the North Tower and repeats his trick with a U-turn. Returning to the middle, he puts a pole across the rope and balances on it under the frightened gazes of the police. They try to grab him as he approaches, but the performer turns around again, continuing his act. To add even more piquancy, Philippe sits on the rope and then lies down on it, raising a natural question. How does the rope not bend under his weight? The rope's fasteners gradually lose their strength, threatening to break. An additional danger is created by a police helicopter circling the gymnast, not taking into account the fact that the air currents could throw Philippe down. He approaches the South Tower, where the police are ready to grab him. Philippe thanks them for their patience and is about to finish his performance, but on the last step, his legs start to tremble. To calm the tremors, he throws the balance beam to the police and then jumps to the roof. He is immediately grabbed and handcuffed, while the crowd of spectators below applauds with delight. As the police lead the artist down the stairs, they see even the construction workers applauding. At the exit of the elevator, the press is already waiting for him, ready to interview him right then and there. For this prank, the authorities sentenced Philippe to community service. He had to walk the rope again, but at a safe height for children. The incident became a global sensation. Newspapers around the world wrote about it. The hero himself meets with his team in a restaurant to thank them. Without them, nothing would have happened. Leaving the restaurant, they look at the Twin Towers, which seem to have changed. Later, Philippe will even be asked to leave an autograph with a map of his walk on the roof, and the architect of the towers will give him an unlimited pass to the roof, which Philippe has used many times, looking down at the abyss beneath his feet and remembering how he once conquered it. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klonsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.